just going to give everyone a couple of minutes to log on. So we will get started right at 6 o'clock. Thank you for those of you that are already here. We'll be back in a minute. All right, everyone, we are going to get started. Thank you to everyone that has joined tonight. Today is May 31st, so it is actually the last day of National Foster Care Awareness Month in the United States. So we're really happy that you have taken this time to join us to learn more about foster care in Massachusetts and to be a friend of foster care. And so we're going to talk tonight more about what that will mean. Of course, that's what tonight is all about, is how you can be a friend to foster care, how you can help children that have been removed from their families due to abuse or neglect and are in need of short-term or long-term support from foster parents who are individuals in the community. Before we dive into that, I did want to just share, if this is your first time joining a webinar of this kind, we are on GoToWebinar tonight. We cannot see or hear each other. You can only see me as the presenter. So if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to put those in the chat, which I will be monitoring. So tonight, I apologize that it is one-sided, but we hope that tonight is just the beginning of the conversation. After tonight's webinar, you will be receiving an email with the recording to the webinar, as well as all of my contact information. So if you'd like to ask questions one-on-one and have more of a dialogue, I am definitely available for that. So now I want to introduce myself. My name is Colleen Aruda, and I am the Community Outreach Manager at Essentia Foster Care in Massachusetts. So Essentia has a couple of foster care programs that we'll talk about tonight. And Essentia is a nonprofit human service agency in New England. We are in all of the New England states except for Rhode Island. And our foster care programs that we'll be focusing on tonight are in Massachusetts. We do also have a foster care program in New Hampshire as well, if you happen to be tuning in from there. But really what we want to talk about tonight is the foster care system in honor of National Foster Care Awareness Month. And so if you don't know, there is a dire need for support of children in foster care in Massachusetts. And that dire need basically boils down to a desperate need for more foster parents, more individuals in the community who are willing to open up their hearts and homes as foster parents. And we recognize that not everyone is able to step forward as a foster parent. It is a big commitment. It is being a parent, which is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. If anyone out there is a parent, you already know this. And sorry, this is my cat. She makes an appearance. But it's also the most rewarding thing in the world to be a foster parent. So really we just want to raise awareness with tonight's webinar. For those who maybe can't be a foster parent, we want you to know that there's still a way that you can help. And that is what being a friend of foster care is all about. So without further ado, I'm going to move forward in my slides here. So for our agenda, we're going to talk about what I mean when I say a friend of foster care. I'll do more of an overview of our foster care programs in Massachusetts. I'll talk about who can be a foster parent and why it's important to know that, and then the steps to becoming a foster parent and how to spread the word. So what you'll notice is there's kind of a common theme here, and it all does come back to helping us reach new foster parents. That's what a friend of foster care can really help us do, is help us to spread the word about the fact that there are not enough foster homes in Massachusetts. So on this slide, you'll see that there are approximately 9,000 children in Massachusetts that are in the foster care system. That number fluctuates daily as children enter and exit care. Children are entering, unfortunately, due to severe abuse and neglect from their birth parent or whatever relative might be raising them. And they are removed from their homes by the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts. However, the primary goal of foster care is to reunify children with their parents, to help integrate supports with the birth family so that they can once again be reunited with their children. So foster care is meant to be short-term. Sometimes it does become long-term, and sometimes children may have the goal of adoption later on in their journey in foster care. So our state needs both temporary foster parents as well as long-term foster parents and adoptive parents who are interested in legally adopting children in their care. And ultimately, as I said, not everyone can be a foster parent. Families nowadays are very busy. We also know that sometimes financially, families don't feel ready to add a new family member to their home. And so we understand that, but truly you can help us by spreading the word. So that's what being a friend of foster care is. It's knowing that there are thousands of children in our state that maybe don't have a safe place to call home. Unfortunately, in the last year, there have been situations where children in the care of the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts had to stay in DCF offices on cots or be put up in hotels overnight with a DCF worker because there was no home to take them in. So these truly are our state's and our country's most vulnerable children, and they really deserve more attention, and that's what we're trying to do with this network of Friends of Foster Care. So before I talk more about some of the ways you can help us raise awareness, I wanted to be a little bit more specific to Accentria Foster Care. So as I mentioned, this webinar is being hosted by Accentria Care Alliance, a nonprofit agency. We are a private foster care and adoption agency, but we work very closely with the state, with the Department of Children and Families, which we often refer to as DCF. So we offer two different types of programming. The first is called comprehensive foster care, which is sometimes referred to as intensive foster care. You can think of this as a higher level of foster care than what's provided traditionally by the state. And this is for children that may have additional needs. That can be all types of things. Children in foster care have all experienced trauma just by the virtue of the fact that they are in foster care. They have been through a lot at a young age. So for some kids, that means that they could benefit from more support. Things like therapy, counseling, in-home behavioral therapy, all different types of services. Oftentimes, children may have a mental health need, an emotional or behavioral need, and sometimes a medical need that might make them a better fit for this level of care of comprehensive foster care. So with more needs, our motto is that comes more support. With more needs comes more support at Accentria. So we really pride ourselves on providing high quality support to our foster families. So we license, train, and support our own network of foster homes that provide this higher level of care to children. Children are referred into that program by the state, and we often have them in our program for a year or longer as we work to help that child's needs get met and help the child stabilize so that they can move on to their next goal, whether that is reunification or adoption. So there's things like weekly check-ins from the case manager to support the family, which is a huge support. Other forms of foster care, there's only a check-in once a month. So you can see how much more support is automatically built into this level of care. So that's a little bit about our first program. Our other program is very unique. It's the Unaccompanied Refugee Minors Program. So the Unaccompanied Refugee Minors Program is the only of its kind in all of New England, but we operate exclusively in Massachusetts. And we provide long-term foster care to refugee and immigrant children that have come to the United States seeking safety without a parent or guardian. So if you have seen anything in the news about the record-breaking number of unaccompanied children that have crossed the border seeking safety, that's where a program like ours comes in. So we license, train, and support a network of foster homes that we specially train to care for unaccompanied children. And so we actually serve about 160 kids in the programs here, and they're all across Massachusetts, and they're from 25 different countries around the world. So it's a very diverse group of youth. You'll notice that I say youth because the youth are primarily teenagers. So if you're interested to learn more about that program, definitely let us know. Both of these programs have an urgent need of foster parents. And I think one thing you could take away is if you had never heard of these programs before, it's good to know that there are different types of foster care out there. Sometimes when we think of foster care, we just think it's one thing, the state, right? The Department of Children and Families. But there actually are different types of programs out there. And for people out there who are interested, they actually have choices and can decide what type of program is the best fit for them. And we can help people make that decision. So as a friend of foster care, it's really important to understand the basics about foster care. And what's core to foster care is foster parents and making sure that we have enough caregivers to care for these 9,000 plus children in our state who enter and exit care every day. We have more kids coming into the programs all across the state. And so it is important for you, if you want to help us raise awareness and help us spread the word, or if you personally are considering becoming a foster parent, it's of course helpful to know who is eligible. So this is true for Accentria. There may be some differences at different agencies and different programs, but in general, a lot of this is consistent for any foster parent at any agency. For our program, this is unique to us. Adults do have to be age 25 or older in order to be a foster parent. Sometimes DCF allows kinship and child-specific care for age 18 plus, like if it's a sibling or a cousin caring for a child. But it's not super common to see an 18-year-old as a foster parent. And so at our agency, the age minimum is 25 plus. You'll notice that there's no maximum age though. Some people say, oh, well, I'm too old to be a foster parent. That's really not possible. It's really up to them. If they feel that they have the ability to care for a child, they have the space in their heart and in their home, we would love to speak with them. And actually, our oldest foster parent retired at the age of 90 after fostering for 13 years. So there truly is no such thing as too old to be a foster parent. For our programs that I just discussed, the Unaccompanied Refugee Minors Program and the Comprehensive Foster Care, the person would need to reside in the specific state where the program is based. So URM is in Massachusetts, and the CFC is in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. We do run background checks for individuals, of course, that want to be a foster parent. So that includes the Massachusetts CORI, as well as the SORI and a fingerprinting check federally. And finally, a DCF check to see if they've had any history of involvement with the child welfare system. If folks do anticipate something on their background check, that does not automatically disqualify them. So they should still talk to us if they're interested. It's just important that they be honest and upfront about what might be on their record and then we can make a decision together from there if we feel that they would be eligible. So if it was something from a long time ago and it had nothing to do with the safety of a child or any act of violence, it's possible that we can still move forward with the person. Individuals also do need a stable source of income, but notice there's no number assigned to that. So you do not need to be wealthy to be a foster parent. Folks do need to have some form of income in order to meet their own basic needs, but there is a stipend provided to foster parents in order to meet the needs of the child. It is by no means a lot of money, but it is there to help cover some of the basics like food, clothing, utilities, transportation. So if somebody is wondering about that, they could definitely contact us. They do need to have reliable transportation. As I mentioned, it's common for children in our programs to have additional appointments, catching up on medical needs. Maybe they haven't had a physical in a while. Maybe they need a lot of dental work if they're coming from another country and they haven't had consistent dental care. Maybe they have a clinician that's working with them. So it is important that foster parents are able to provide transportation. That is one of the responsibilities of a foster parent. And so often that looks like at least one caregiver in the home having a driver's license and vehicle. If they do live in a city and can access public transportation, we could talk about that as well. But most of our foster parents do have a vehicle. They must be mature and stable. They have to have a genuine motivation. So that's the first question we ask people is, why do you want to foster? We want to make sure that people are in this for the right reasons, that they truly wish to help a child, and that they're not in it for something like money or something like that, because again, it is not a way to make income. It's really just a small stipend that they receive. And so we do look for folks that really have the openness, and we also try to address that with them. What are their expectations, and try to be realistic with people because we want to set everyone up for success. And finally, folks do need to live in a residence that has available bedroom space for a child. So if it's a 1-bedroom with an adult living in it, they would not be able to foster, unfortunately. A child cannot share a room with an adult. They can share a room with another child as long as the child is a similar age and gender identity. But we do look for folks that have that available bedroom space for a child. All right. Moving along, I've kind of already started to naturally do this in talking about eligibility, but there are a lot of misconceptions out there about foster care and who can be a foster parent. So I definitely wanted to address that because people might ask you this if they hear that you're trying to be an advocate for foster care. These types of questions might come up. So folks do not need to own a home. You'll notice on the previous slide, I said that people need to live in a residence that has an available bedroom, but that residence could be a home that they own or a home that they rent. So they do not need to be a homeowner to be a foster parent. Another big misconception is they do not need to be married. They could be single, they could have a partner who lives in or outside of the home, they could be divorced. Really, any family constellation is welcome. And they do not need to have parenting experience. We actually do have foster parents, awesome foster parents, who never had biological children and who became parents through foster care, even signed up for this before ever having any experience with children. That is why we provide a training and support to foster parents. And that's a huge benefit. If there's one thing you take away from this webinar, it should be that foster care, you're not in it alone as a foster parent. When you have a biological child, they send you home from the hospital with that baby and they say, good luck, we'll see you at the next doctor's appointment. But with being a foster parent, it is so different. There's a case manager supporting the home. There's a family resource worker supporting the home. There's a 24/7 on-call emergency line where you can literally access help anytime. It could be Saturday at 1 a.m. if there's an emergency. There is somebody to help you at our agency. So there's so much support built in. So that's great for first-time parents, and it's great for experienced parents too. And I apologize if I'm talking fast. We will be ending by 6:30. I know time is, everyone's busy, especially it's a beautiful night. So if I am going too quickly, I apologize. But now I wanted to talk about one last aspect of who can be a foster parent, and that's truly, we welcome foster parents of all backgrounds. We're very committed to diversity at our agency, especially considering the fact that we offer the only unaccompanied refugee minors program in the state. We have children from all over the world, and we accept foster parents from all over the world. So all races, ethnicities, religions, sexual orientations, gender identities, gender expressions. We are very open to foster parents of all kinds because we serve children of all kinds. And we need folks that ideally would have something in common with our youth. And there really is such a large number of children that need support that chances are, what you bring to the table as a foster parent is something that a child needs and could appreciate. And that's something you could share with people. All right. So I mentioned we would be talking about the steps to becoming a foster parent. As you're out there in the community raising awareness, this is probably the most common question we get besides who can be a foster parent is how do I become a foster parent? So it's really broken down into these 6 steps. Of course, there's more detail that goes into these, but essentially this is what it is. So the first thing that someone should do if they're interested in becoming a foster parent, even if they're not sure, is contact us. And so like I mentioned, I'll be sending out my contact information via email after this webinar. And if folks want to reach out to me and tell me that they're interested in foster care, that would be step 1. That's the inquiry. So they can contact us through our website, they can contact us through email, or they can contact us over the phone. When they inquire, we'll go through a quick questionnaire with them just to make sure that they meet that basic eligibility criteria we talked about. And of course, we'll take time to answer that person's questions too. And like I mentioned, if someone's not sure, we can help them talk through that. And we could also help them determine which type of program and whether long-term, short-term, what age might be the best fit. So that's step 1. Step 2 is the application. So if we determine that they're eligible and the person would like to move forward to the next step, we can email or mail them our application. It's about 12 pages or so, and it asks for basic information about the home and the family, as well as references and consents to step 3, which is the background check. So once we receive all of the paperwork back and have the person's written consent, we do run those background checks that I mentioned earlier. If things are looking good there, then the person is able to come to our foster parent training classes. This is called the Massachusetts Approach to Partnerships in Parenting, MAPP, or MAP for short. It is the required curriculum for all foster parents in Massachusetts, and we do offer that here at Essentia. It's done online ever since the pandemic, and it's broken up into pieces to add up to that 30 hours. Then there is the caregiver assessment. This used to be called the home study. And essentially, this is where a social worker visits the family's home, not just to check for the physical safety of the home, but also to really get to know the family. The social worker will interview anyone that lives in the home as age appropriate, and we'll really get to know the family, understand their upbringing, their parenting style, the rules of their home, things like that, and help them really prepare for welcoming a child. They'll also talk about the specific type of child that the family feels that they can best support. So is there a particular gender, a particular age, a particular interest that the youth has, what types of needs that they are comfortable supporting in a child. That way, once the family's licensed, we already have an idea of the type of child that would fit well into the home. And so people do have a say in that. And then the final step is licensing. So this is where we do some final paperwork. We show you our foster parent handbook and you kind of sign off that you want to be licensed with our program. This is where some of the behind the scenes stuff takes place. And that would be the final celebration of being a licensed foster parent. So this whole process takes about 8 months. We are working to make it as quick as possible, and we're hoping it will take closer to 6 months, but it really varies depending on the family and how quickly they pass in their paperwork and if they're able to meet with us in a timely manner. So if the person's motivated, they can usually become licensed more quickly. But on average, it takes families about 8 months. So I do see our first question. Is there a viewing for face recognition? So I'm not familiar with that, so I don't believe that there is, so I'm sorry about that. All right, so moving forward, the last thing that I wanted to cover at tonight's webinar in the last few minutes that we have before we do questions is how to help us spread the word. So as I've said again and again, being a friend of foster care is about helping us spread the word, helping us raise awareness about the needs of children in foster care. And right now, that need boils down to a dire need for more foster parents, more people who meet that criteria, who are willing to become licensed, and who truly have a positive motivation that want to foster. So it's no easy ask, which is why we're trying to build this network of people who can help us raise awareness. So a lot of people say, sure, I'll help, but how do I actually raise awareness? So one of the ways after tonight, you will receive an email that you could easily forward to other folks in your network. We also will be subscribing you to our quarterly newsletter, and that gives updates every 3 months about what's going on in our programs and what are the needs. Sometimes we have volunteer opportunities in there. Sometimes we have donations that we might need in there. And if you forward our emails along to other people in your network, that's a big help to get more eyes on our information. And the recording tonight, you can forward that to people as well. We also have social media. We use Facebook and Instagram currently. So if you're on Facebook and you search for Accentria Care Alliance, or Instagram, you'll search Accentria Care, and you'll find us. Look for the 3-colored logo. And you'll actually see that every Friday we post #FosterCareFriday, a fact about foster care, raising awareness. So if you share that with your followers, you'll help us reach a lot more people. Another way you can help us spread the word is a little bit bigger of an ask, but hosting a foster care info session. So this would be where I could come in person, or you could connect me on a Zoom online with people who are interested, and I would do a presentation like this. I could do it as an orientation to becoming a foster parent, or I could do it as an orientation to helping us spread the word, just like tonight. But if you are part of a group that would really be interested into really digging into this, I would love to meet with you in a Zoom or in person. So we could do that through a church group, a knitting club, a book club, Bible study, whatever type of group that you might be a part of. Maybe it's a teachers association, a nurses association. I would love to connect with that group. Another way to help spread the word is to post flyers. So we're constantly updating our flyers, trying to get them posted at local cafes, at libraries, on bulletins in the community where people go to look for resources. And so if that's something you're interested in, if you're not really about social media, but you like a hard copy of something, reach out to me via email and I can actually email or mail you some hard copies of our flyers. Then there is recruiting your friends to be a friend of foster care. So kind of along the same lines, anyone can be a friend of foster care at any age, from any demographic, really. You're just helping spread the word. So if you would like to enlist some friends, our network will just continue to grow. And refer. I mean, this would be, you know, my dream come true, that you actually know somebody who you think would be an amazing foster parent. Maybe they're an empty nester and they miss nurturing children. Maybe they already have kids and they're looking to grow their family. Maybe they're a single parent and they didn't think that they could foster, but they can. If you know somebody that would be a great foster parent, refer them to me, refer them to Accentria. We would love to talk to them and answer their questions. And I always like to say it's no commitment phone call, right? I'm not gonna rope anyone into it who's not interested. But we can definitely at least give people information over the phone or over coffee. So definitely refer people our way. And then think outside the box. You know, after today, I hope you feel really empowered with some of this information to share this information. So you know, the summer is coming up. If you celebrate 4th of July and you have a lot of fireworks shows you're going to, you could pass out information during 4th of July celebrations. If your neighborhood does a block party, you could set up a little foster care info table. I'd be happy to send you brochures or resources for something like that. If you're part of a book club, or if you know that a local library does a book club, recommend them to read something about foster care. There's a lot of amazing memoirs out there about foster care. I highly recommend reading A Chance in the World by Steve Pemberton. He was actually raised in the Massachusetts foster care system, and he is now a successful executive for some of the top businesses in New England. So he's a really powerful story from foster care right here locally. So that's one recommendation. But if you Google books about foster care, there are tons out there, usually from people who have been a foster child, who have been through the system themselves. So even just continuing your learning through reading and things like that is awesome. And finally, we do accept donations. So if that's something, if you know you're part of a group that doesn't want to be a foster parent and maybe isn't right for spreading the word, if they're a type of group that likes to do donation drives, we do have different items that we need throughout the year depending on the seasons. During the holidays, we do a holiday gift drive. Graduations are right now, so we're looking for grad gifts and college dorm supplies. We also have some expecting parents, some young mothers or fathers who are expecting their first child and need things like diapers or things like that. So if you're ever interested in a donation drive, that is a great way to be a friend to foster care as well. All right, and so we're winding down and I'm a little bit over time, but I just wanted to share that ultimately it's really important to be positive about foster care. There's so much in the news that is negative, and ultimately there are things that happen in foster care that are tragic, but really we want to speak positively about the strengths of children in care, about their resilience, about the success stories that are in foster care. Tonight is actually graduation for some of our kids. I think we have like over 20 kids in the unaccompanied refugee minors program who are graduating this year from high school, who are going off to college. We have a student that got a full boat scholarship to her top university. So there's all these powerful stories from foster care, and really that's what we want to focus on. And so that's kind of just what I wanted to share with this slide about the do's and don'ts when we're talking about foster care, is to try to be positive and also be realistic with people, but don't harp on those negatives. And the thing I wanted to end on before I see if anyone wants to stay on with questions is just this great quote. This is from another foster care alumni, a man who was in foster care himself, and he has done motivational speeches and TED Talks. But his quote is, "Every kid is one caring adult away from being a success story." So you can be that caring adult who helps make a difference in a child's life, whether that's as a foster parent or now as a friend of foster care and helping us reach new caregivers. So thank you for listening. I know I went a mile a minute. I had a lot I wanted to share in honor of Foster Care Month. But I'll pause there if anyone needs to sign off. We are past 6:30, but I can also stay on if anyone has any questions. So I will take a look at the chat if there are any questions. All right. Well, it doesn't look like there are any questions. So thank you all so much for listening tonight. And I hope you noticed I have my friend of foster care button on. If you want one of these, email me and I can ship it to you. You are now officially a friend of foster care. Thank you so much for being here, and we will be in touch soon. Have a great night, everyone.